Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where we recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 17th of November, 2023. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So we had BlackRock officially file their S1 prospectus for its spot ETH ETF today with the SEC. Now you may be wondering, why is this news? Didn't they already do this last week? Well, no, last week they applied for their, I think it's a 19B-4, which was kind of creating the trust. And now with the S1 prospectus, this is actually filing for the spot ETH ETF with the SEC. And the filing, among other things, appoints Coinbase as the custodian for the underlying ETH. Of course, obviously the same custodian that they're using for their spot BTC ETF. And there appears to be no mention on whether the trust will actively be staking the ETH and distributing dividends to shareholders from the yield. As I said before, none of these spot ETH ETFs are going to be staking from day one. I don't even think it's possible for there to be a staked ETH ETF at this point in time. Obviously, because there's various considerations there for that. But if it is possible to get one in the future, I would assume that it would be maybe a separate product, and so they'd have two that have like a staked ETH ETF and then just like a vanilla ETH ETF product, because probably not everyone wants to have their ETH staked as part of the ETF. Maybe they want to be able to exit more quickly, or maybe they don't want to take on that extra risk, things like that. So I'm wondering, if it's going to look like that, if there's going to be just two different ones per issuer here, or if it's going to be the same one. We'll have to see. I think it requires some regulation changes for it actually to be able to be done, because as I said, like when you're staking, there's extra risks involved, and I doubt BlackRock's going to be running their own node operators. They're probably just going to go with their custodian, and in this case, it'd be Coinbase. But at the same time, ideally, we wouldn't want that, because if all of the, ETF filers for a staked ETH ETF, if all of them are using Coinbase, then that just increases Coinbase's market share of the beacon chain, which we don't want to do because they've already got a pretty sizable market share, right? So if we're thinking about it like that, it just remains to be seen what that's actually going to look like in the end state. I don't think that they're going to be staking with any of the, protocols that we would like them to stake with. For example, I don't imagine that BlackRock is going to be staking with Rocket Pool. As much as I'd love for that to happen, I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe sometime far into the future, like 10 years or something like that. But no, they would have to go with, just legally and by regulatory standards, they would have to go with something like a Coinbase or some other enterprise grade staking provider in order to do a staked ETH ETF there. But anyway, we've got the spot ETH ETF filing officially here from BlackRock today. And on this note as well, with the ETFs, Eric Balkanis put out a tweet today saying Ether is a commodity, but the SEC won't admit it. There's a good one from James, his kind of like friend here, James, who I've covered on the Refuel a bunch of times before. He said today on how the SEC has and will continue to act as if it is a commodity, even if they won't say it. So remember how I told you guys that there was that change in language, and that the SEC has basically conceded the point on ETH being not being a security, but they're not going to say it. They're not going to outright say it. They're just going to let the market basically say it for them, and the industry say it for them, which it has. They approved the futures ETFs. It's been trading on the CME futures exchange for quite a while now. They have not said anything, at least recently, it's actually more than recently, I think maybe at least the last 6 months, about ETH being a security or anything like that. So yeah, I think we can put that completely to bed now, because I think the SEC is going to ever go after ETH now, especially because there's all this precedent now where if they were to try going after ETH as a security, straight away in court, it would be argued that, hey, okay, well, if it's a security, why did you approve the futures ETFs, right? Why is it trading on the CME kind of exchange for years now as a futures product or as a commodity product, right? So yeah, ETH is a commodity in the US, in the eyes of the regulators and the law in the US. For all intents and purposes, ETH is a commodity. It is not a security. And as I said, I doubt there's going to be any kind of, actions brought against, I don't even know who you'd bring it against, but ETH as an asset being a security there. All right, a really exciting announcement out of Coinbase today. So they have updated their Coinbase Commerce product, which is basically their payments product that allows merchants to easily accept crypto payments. And they've updated it by basically making something called an on-chain payments protocol, which is now open source as well. Now, Jesse Pollack, the lead of the base team here, has a great TLDR of what this is. What it lets anyone do is pay in hundreds of currencies and settle to USDC, all on-chain, currently deployed on Ethereum mainnet, Base, and Polygon. and will be deployed to other EVM chains, of course. And this will be the fastest, most accessible way for merchants around the world to accept payments. And as I said, this is an open source payments protocol. This is not just something that Coinbase has, some closed sourced app on their backend. It is an open source payments protocol that uses EVM networks right now. And as I said, like Base, Ethereum mainnet, and Polygon POS chain, I believe, are supported right now. But I mean, the coolest thing about this is the fact that you can accept, hundreds of currencies and settle in USDC. So basically, on the front end, you accept like AUD or yen or kind of yuan or Korean won or any of those kind of like currencies, right? You accept any of those, and then it settles to USDC on chain, completely on chain, without you having to do anything else, really. And that's kind of like the whole point of the protocol here. Now, I've said before that I think that when it comes to payments, this is the most important thing. Fees obviously are an important part of it, but I think that the most important thing by far is the user experience part of it, especially for merchants who want to integrate it. And then fees come next, and then speed. Honestly, as I've said before, guys, like the difference between like a second and, half a second is completely negligible, and no one's going to care about that. Because I remember I argued that people saying, well, you can do payments on Solana in 400 milliseconds, like because their blocks are 400 milliseconds. Like, okay, cool, but like no one cares between 400 milliseconds and 1 second, right? When it gets to a few seconds, maybe people start caring. But when it comes to like the base, for example, your payment's going to get done in like a second, right? Polygon POS, very quick as well. Ethereum obviously can take up to 12 seconds on Ethereum mainnet, but generally, because that's the block time, but generally I would expect most of this activity to happen at layer 2s, where it's basically near instant anyway, which is the whole point of it, right? Near instant, cheap, good user experience, good user interface, and that's exactly what Coinbase is delivering here with this product today. You can go check this out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so the Ethereum Foundation research team proposed a path forward for native account abstraction today. So they've called this the RIP 7560. So RIP stands for, I think, I can't remember what it actually stands for, because there's EIP, and now they've called this RIP, and I think it stands for something that I can't remember right now. Yeah, I'm not sure what it stands for. I'm trying to like just read it here. Yeah, I can't get it off the top of my head. Someone can correct me if I'm not seeing it on my screen here. But essentially what this proposal is that it introduces a consensus layer protocol change. Instead of relying on higher layer infrastructure, it combines EIP 2938 and ERC 4337, which you may have heard of before, into a comprehensive native account abstraction proposal. And let's continue. We propose splitting the Ethereum transaction scope into multiple steps: validations, execution, and post-transaction logic. Transaction validity is determined by the result of the validation steps of a transaction. So basically, this is trying to take all of the account abstraction efforts and put them into one kind of proposal that allows us to upgrade the network in order to better kind of handle account abstraction and to do account abstraction in a much better way than we traditionally have done it. And I think that this is for Ethereum mainnet. I'm not sure how this applies to layer 2s, but I'm sure it can be like copied onto the layer 2s that are obviously EVM equivalent or EVM compatible, because they can basically just copy the RIP here, which is obviously very good for keeping compatibility across networks and things like that, whether they be layer 2s or other EVM networks out there. But as for the RIP itself, you can go check it out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. There's a bunch of comments about it in the Ethereum Magicians post as well. No timeline as of yet. Like, I don't expect there to be a timeline here. It's more so just kind of getting that out there and getting discussions on it, and discussions have definitely started here. So yeah, if you're at all interested in account abstraction and how this RIP proposal may be the kind of like one size fits all sort of thing, where it actually kind of brings it all together instead of everyone working on their own thing and standardizes it, I'm very excited about that. So yeah, you can go check this out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so everyone can now stake on Ether.fi. So by minting ETH, you automatically earn staking rewards, Ether.fi points, and EigenLayer points. So I covered this last week, or it might have been last week, or maybe a couple of days ago, where ETH launched in kind of like a beta, and there was like a whitelist or invite-only list sort of thing. But now you can stake on Ether.fi here. And by minting ETH, as I said, you get the ETH staking rewards, obviously. You get Ether.fi points and EigenLayer points here. So yeah, I mean, I already went over this, I think, the other day, but just wanted to highlight it for you guys that it's now open. So if you are interested in, I guess, like the in staking your ETH, but getting involved with a new LST from the kind of ground up here, and staking it with Ether.fi, you can do so now on their website. Now, of course, when they say like Ether.fi points, we don't know exactly what that means. You know, it could mean there's a future token or something like that. Who knows, right? I mean, I assume there would be, because if there's going to be like a governance token, it would mean that. And then EigenLayer points, same thing. Like EigenLayer, we can assume is going to have a token as well. So really, I guess like the juice here is that you get the staking rewards, and then you get the point systems, and you also get restaking rewards on top of that, which you know, we don't know what they're going to be yet, but really this is like a staking burger essentially, where you kind of like get all these yields together and get all these rewards together and have yourself a nice LST burger here. So yeah, go check this out for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, speaking of EigenLayer, they have launched Stage 2 testnet, the Stage 2 testnet for EigenLayer and EigenDA, onboarding operators to EigenLayer and rollups to EigenDA. This testnet introduces new functionality for restakers, operators, and developers, and you can learn how to use it in this blog post here. It's a pretty detailed blog post, actually, which I highly recommend going and giving a read. But if you want to dive right in, you can. It's live on Girly. Here's the app link, and there's the docs here and for both EigenLayer and EigenDA. Some demos as well. They've recapped basically what they've been doing in stage 1, which was basically bringing, I think, 170,000 ETH has been restaked on EigenLayer so far. And over the coming months, they're going to add those new LSTs and continue to raise the LST caps as well with the Stage 2 testnet. The operators can now register to the network and validate for an AVS, such as EigenDA. Restakers can delegate to operators and share security to EigenDA, and rollups can integrate EigenDA to build new hyperscale use cases. So essentially, it's taking EigenLayer to the next level now, where they bootstrapped that initial restaking set of ETH. Now they're basically saying, well, we need to bootstrap the operator set as well, using that restaked ETH, and you can delegate to different operators here. You can check this out. As you can see here, this is still on testnet, right? As I said, like, this isn't on mainnet just yet, but very good to see that this is making movements here, because I do think at this rate, EigenLayer and EigenDA will probably be live on mainnet sometime earlier next year, I think, and then they'll be adding those LSTs, raising the mint caps, all that good stuff there, and then we can start actually seeing the whole restaking space take form on mainnet, because it's been teased for quite a while now. I can't remember when I first covered EigenLayer on the Refuel, but it's quite a while ago now. And I should disclose here, I'm an investor in EigenLayer as well. But I talked about them, I think it had to be at least a year ago now. And since then, there's been a lot of discussions around, you know, potential risks it could pose to the network, potential kind of use cases, what it actually looks like in its end state. You know, are we going to enshrine restaking one day? So on and so forth. There's been plenty of discussion about it. But you know, at the end of the day, discussions are discussions. We want to see real world kind of use cases playing out. We want to see real mainnet functionality playing out. And that's exactly what we're going to be seeing soon. And that's why I'm excited to see them move to their Stage 2 testnet here, because it just means they're one step closer to their mainnet launch here. But anyway, you can check out all the details for yourself. I'll link this in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, Infura has announced their first set of partners that are going to be, I guess, like part of their new decentralized infrastructure network, also known as DIN. So for those of you who don't know, or maybe need a refresher here, Infura is basically an infrastructure provider that provides a full node infrastructure, essentially an archive node infrastructure for people to be able to relay their transactions via Infura. Now, when you install MetaMask, the default RPC that you use is Infura, which means all of your transactions through MetaMask is actually relayed via Infura. You can change your RPC, of course, but you still need an RPC no matter what. It could be your own full node, or it could be someone else's, Infura or otherwise. But you really do need to be able to talk to an RPC, or else you won't be able to relay your transactions to the network, because the network can't see them, right? Now, there's obviously been some, I guess, concerns with Infura, you know, censorship concerns, because Infura controls the node. They could choose to just censor your transactions, drop your transactions, and also reliability. You know, Infura is one company. You know, I'm sure they've got like a whole setup where they're running redundancies and stuff like that. But really, the ultimate goal is to decentralize out this stuff, decentralize out the RPC networks, and make it so that multiple entities can run these things and run them under the same umbrella, which is exactly what Infura is doing. And you can see some of the partners here listed. You know, big names like Microsoft are on board, and then you have insider crypto names like Everstake, some of the ones you guys may recognize here, Mantle, even Tencent actually is signed up here, so it's very cool to see that there. But yeah, there's more details in the thread here, as well as the blog post, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. But great to see the movement happening here. I think eventually Infura is going to decentralize this out, and then anyone can become an operator, or anyone can become an RPC on the network, and then they're probably going to have a token. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work or what that's going to look like, but we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, Infura is one of the oldest products within the Ethereum ecosystem. It is definitely one that we would love to decentralize out, because having centralized RPCs is not good. But eventually, I guess we get light clients, which makes this even better, where essentially, like, you still need a robust full node in network, but with light clients, people can just verify using a light client and have like trustless verification of things, and be able to relay their transactions via these full nodes without having to essentially trust them. So I think that's a huge step up as well. But obviously the more, I guess, like full nodes on the network, the better it is. And Infura's kind of decentralized infrastructure network that they're building is one thing that's going to encourage that. So very cool to see this. But yeah, I'll link this in the YouTube description below for you to check out. All right, so Polynya has a fresh blog post today that is very spicy. So the blog post is titled "The Horrific Inefficiencies of Monolithic Blockchains." Now, I highly recommend giving this a read. I will link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. But the TLDR is just Polynya trashing how bad monolithic blockchains are compared to modular blockchains, right? And I think reading it, it's probably not going to be anything that you haven't heard before, at least from me, because I've covered a lot of this stuff in the past. But the great thing about when Polynya writes about something, they actually put like numbers to it. They actually put kind of technical details behind it, whereas I tend to stay more high level for the refuel, just because I don't want to go too deep for you guys, because you can always just check out the source for yourself. You don't have to hear it from me, sort of thing. But the reason why this was so spicy is because they actually tweeted this out. So this is their first tweet in a little while now, because they usually share these things on Farcaster, but they tweeted this out by saying, "Crypto Twitter was the worst community I've ever participated in. A toxic hellhole that Sauron himself would envy. I will never return. However, I'm not afraid to drop one-off posts when narratives stray too far from the whole truth." And the reason I love this is because this is exactly how I feel, guys. Like, really, crypto Twitter is just such a bad community. It doesn't, in my eyes, it does not reflect the good of the ecosystem, of the crypto ecosystem. It just reflects the bad. And I don't blame Polynya for exiting crypto Twitter and for basically not paying attention to it, and for going to other places like Farcaster and things like that, rather than I guess, like, exposing themselves to just that toxicity there. But of course, they also get frustrated by all these bad narratives that kind of perpetuate themselves about how monolithic blockchains are the solution and they're only going to win out, and how modular blockchains are crap, and how layer 2s are crap, and all this stuff. So I'm very glad that they're still writing posts like this, because it gives me something for to point to for you guys to go look at, because it's all well and good for me to say these things, but I don't usually write blog posts much anymore. I mean, I used to write my newsletter, but I stopped that because I just burnt myself out, to be honest. I was writing it every day, doing the video every day. And honestly, it shouldn't just come from me. I think the more people doing this sorts of stuff and writing this sorts of stuff, the better. But yeah, I'm not going to spend too long on this. I just wanted to highlight it for you guys, and you can go check it out for yourself. But I also, after reading it, I also highly recommend checking out all of the cope in the replies, because of course, like, even though Polynya didn't mention any actual specific blockchains in this post, they didn't mention Ethereum even, they didn't mention the different layer 2s, they didn't mention Solana. Of course, like, you infer, when you hear the term monolithic blockchain, you infer, okay, well, that means Solana, right? Or that means one of the other chains out there, but Solana being the most well-known monolithic blockchain. And then, of course, when you hear things like validity proofs and ZK proofs and I guess, like, modular design, you think of Ethereum and L2s, which is fair enough. But at the same time, it's just funny because, like, people like Anatoly commented on this post, and they commented so fast that they wouldn't have even read the post. They probably just read the title, and then they just commented, and there's, like, debates back and forth in the replies. And it's just, it's hilarious, because exactly what Polynya was talking about in their tweet about how it's the worst community played out in the reply. So the irony is just chef's kiss, right? But yeah, anyway, go read the post, then read the Twitter thread and read the replies, because it's just entertainment, to be honest. But yeah, I really love this post, so kudos to Polynya for putting this one out there. All right, so a bit of drama in the domain name space. Now, Nick Johnson here, who is a lead developer at ENS, well, I guess like once was the lead developer of ENS. I think he still is, or he's very heavily involved in the ENS ecosystem. Put together a thread today saying an open letter regarding blockchain domain name patents. Since its founding in 2017, ENS has been a consistent and outspoken advocate of open source, open standards, and the importance of governing the global namespace as a public good. Now, I won't read the whole thread here, but the reason why Nick is doing this thread is because another domain name provider called Unstoppable Domains has actually patented and was granted the first patent in January of this year for resolving blockchain domains. This patent is based entirely on innovations that ENS developed and contains no novel innovations of its own. So essentially what Unstoppable Domains have done is that they've not only patented this thing, which should be completely open and shouldn't be patented, they've actually stolen the work and stolen the innovations from ENS and patent it as their own. So like if everything that we said in this thread is true, which I believe it is, and Nick also has receipts here of some communications between them and Unstoppable Domains here, and then there's a bit of back and forth in the replies, that to me, I just look at this and I'm like, I would never support Unstoppable Domains. Like I don't think that they should be supported if they're going to be like this. Like this is not in the spirit of this ecosystem. This is not in the spirit of open source. ENS is a much loved public good essentially on Ethereum, right? I mean, it's not technically a public good, I guess, if you want to use the strictest terminology here, but it's been around for so long. You know, we all have our own ENS names. It's added so much value to Ethereum, and they've done it all in the open. They've come up with lots of different innovations, and for Unstoppable Domains to swoop in, take that innovation and then patent it for themselves and get the patent granted to themselves, honestly is disgusting. Like, and this is some of the worst kind of most egregious kind of stuff that I've seen when it comes to people just kind of using other people's work, which, you know, besides all the forks that we see where people would like fork a protocol and then use it as their own, whatever, that's obviously probably the worst of it because they're monetizing it, because they issue their own token and stuff like that. But this is, you know, this is approaching just as bad because really that patent could present issues for ENS and for anyone working within the ENS ecosystem if it's enforced by the Unstoppable Domains team, which if they want to keep that patent, I'm pretty sure they have to enforce it, right? And then you have patent trolls out there as well that just makes it all murky. Yeah, it's not good. It's not fun. But yeah, I'll link this thread in the YouTube description below for you to get better context around this and exactly what Nick's going on about here. And you can even see the communications with Unstoppable Domains between Nick and some of the Unstoppable Domains people here. But for the foreseeable future, unless Unstoppable Domains completely walks this back and changes their tune here, I can't promote them. I can't cover them on the refuel. I don't think I've covered them before because I always thought they were a bit dodgy and they weren't worth covering on the refuel before. Maybe I've covered them. I don't know, but I don't think I've covered them very much. But yeah, just very disappointing to see this, and I just wanted to call it out and just wanted to call attention to it. So yeah, I'll link the thread in the YouTube description below, and you can go check it out for yourself. All right, last up here, we have an update out of Argent. So they said here, security on Starknet will never be the same. Meet Multisig, the fully open source audited Cairo 1 Multisig wallet for Starknet. So they've created a new wallet, obviously, for Starknet called Multisig here, built within, I guess, like Cairo, which is Starknet's programming language, so they're not using Solidity there, and they kind of got a thread here talking about how Starknet's ecosystem is thriving, and if you're a team building on Starknet, Multisig is your Fort Knox. It's written 100% in Cairo 1, audited by consensus diligence, and also fully open source. And of course, they continue here. I'll link this in the YouTube description below for you to check out. But great to see that Starknet has gotten its own native kind of Multisig here wallet from Argent, which is one of the kind of better wallet teams in the crypto ecosystem. Have been working in it for quite a while now. I mean, I think I was covering Argent back when I was doing like the ETH Hub podcast and newsletter. So it's quite an old project and team now, but they've been kicking goals for quite a while. They've been building stuff for quite a while. And it's great to see this go live on Starknet here. Now, Starknet is an ecosystem that I haven't covered too much on the refuel. I don't know why. My feed doesn't really pop up with too much Starknet stuff, but they definitely have a lot going on. And I think that because they're distinctly different in terms of like not being another EVM chain, I think the coverage of it is a lot less because there's probably a lot less of the same stuff that you see forked to other chains, for example, or deployed to other chains. Like I don't know if Uniswap's on Starknet right now. It may not be. I think they have their own AMMs on there, but that's what I mean. Like the top brands that you're used to seeing on other layer 2s aren't on Starknet yet because they have to either rewrite their contracts or they have to transpile them, and it just becomes, obviously harder than just redeploying it to one of these EVM networks out there. But I may be wrong on this. As I said, I haven't been following along with Starknet too closely here. And if you know any good Starknet accounts on Twitter that I should be following, please let me know in the YouTube comments or on Discord, and I'll be glad to follow them there. But yeah, anyway, great to see this from Argent here today. As I said, I'll link this in the YouTube description below, and you can go check it out for yourself there. All right, a few minutes left here, and this is the last episode of the week. So I have one topic that I wanted to talk about, which was the markets. Now, the markets are in a funny place right now. I did say, I think the other day, that I thought that we were in the really early stages of a bull market, and I still think that. But at the same time, I look at what's been happening in the markets over the last, I guess you could say 4 to 6 weeks, and I look at all the just random stuff that's been going up in value, and I think to myself, where's the new money? Like, this isn't new money. Like, this is, to me, the same money rotating out of Bitcoin, rotating out of ETH, and maybe people that are already in crypto that have cash on the sidelines. And all they're doing now is immediately going down the risk curve because they're like, oh my God, it's a bull market, or, all the retail investors are going to come back and they're going to buy all these shit coins. So I'm going to front run them. And of course, like, that can work because it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy and so on and so forth. But what ends up happening is that if there's no new money coming in and those retail investors don't come, what do you think is going to happen to all these things that have gone up in value? They're just going to get sold back down again because the crypto natives aren't going to hold it for very long if their whole thesis was, I'm buying this because I expect someone else to buy it from me at a higher price. That's new to the ecosystem, right? And because of that, what you're probably going to end up see happening probably soon, to be honest, is a kind of like a wipeout across the board. And honestly, the best time for that to happen is during the holiday period where less people are paying attention and definitely no new capital is coming in. Now, is that to say that there's no new money coming in at all? I don't think so. I think there is definitely new money going into BTC, especially. I do think some of it is trickling into ETH now, especially because of the ETF the ETF thing. But on net, and then you're talking about like actual new money coming in, not just small amounts, like big amounts of new money coming in, I don't think it's going into these things, these other things. I think the money going into these other things are from existing crypto natives and existing money that's already in crypto, not new money, not new retail investors. We're just not at that stage of the bull market yet. We're in the very, very early kind of transition stage between the crab and the bull. And honestly, we haven't still 100% confirmed that it's a bull market yet. Like, as I've said before, we have to spend quite a bit of time to convince people that it's a bull market above the crab market range, which BTC is trying to do right now. ETH's trying to break out of its crab range. I think once ETH breaks out and holds it for a while, that increases the chances as well exponentially. But yeah, we're still in that kind of no man's land. And for people to be speculating on all of this just random crap and they're doing it because they expect someone else to come along and buy it, very soon, some new retail investors, I think it's very dangerous. And I think that if you are playing those games, just a bit of advice to be careful there and just to know what you're getting yourself into, because yes, things have gone up a lot over the last 4 to 6 weeks. And I know that some things have had like mega pumps and stuff like that. But what you need to remember is that these things can sell down just as fast, if not faster than what they pumped. And when you're talking about percentages, there's a massive difference between a positive percentage and a negative percentage, right? Because people will say, oh, this thing went up 800%, or I guess like you could say 500%, right? It went up 500%, which is 5 times. Okay, fair enough. It goes from $10 to $50, right? And then it goes down 50+%. You're back down to $25 now. And now it needs to go up 100% to get back to $50, right? So looking at percentages is always something that screws people over because they kind of take the positive percentage and they apply it to the negative one. They don't realize that negative percentages kind of increase exponentially the more negative you go in terms of the real number effect here. And people end up breaking themselves. They overtrade. They're like, oh, this is just like a sell off, and then we'll bounce, and then I'll be able to kind of like sell into that bounce. And then if everyone's thinking that, they all sell into it, and then it just keeps going down further. So yeah, just keep that in mind. I'm not saying it's guaranteed to happen, but when I see stuff like this happening and I don't see any real signs of new money coming in to sustain that, I just look at it and I think to myself, that's not sustainable. That's not something that I want to get involved with at all, and that's something that I'm very cautious of. But I don't think it really applies to BTC and ETH, to be honest. One, because ETH hasn't really pumped that much as kind of compared to other things, and also BTC, I believe there has been a substantial amount of new money going into BTC because of the ETF stuff. But do remember that the ETF, BlackRock spot ETF application was done back in June, right? And BTC did not break its crab market range back in June. It went up to it. It was like 31K, but then it took until October for it to break it. So when you look at it like that, the new money takes longer to come in than you think it does. So if we consider a 3 to 6 month lag on new money coming in, you could say that we're actually not going to see new money until early next year, essentially, for kind of maybe even ETH and other things out there. And that's particularly why BTC always runs first, because the new money goes into BTC first, and then obviously things get speculated on. But if we're talking about like the next 6 months, that's kind of maybe how I see things playing out. But we'll have to see. Anyway, I think I'm going to end it there for today's episode. And just a reminder as well, I know that I haven't put out an episode with Eric Connor lately, a Daily Gwei drive-through episode with him. Scheduling issues, guys, just been a nightmare. I don't think I'm going to be able to do one this week or next week. So maybe the week after that. But I'm going to try for next week. But yeah, definitely not this week, unfortunately. But yeah, just figured I'd update you guys on that. But on that note, that's going to be it for today. So thank everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all next week. Thanks, everyone.